Some people perceive the world and their surroundings in greater detail. This perception can sometimes make the burden even heavier. Everyone sits in the same room, listening to the same conversations. But there you are, noticing the meaning and pain behind what someone is saying, while another person perceives only the words at face value. When someone smiles, you notice the bitterness beneath that smile. When someone says, "I'm fine," you see the exhaustion in their eyes. At first, it feels like an ability, but in time, it becomes clear that it's also a burden to be carried. Perhaps you are someone like this too. Perhaps you always have been, but you couldn't put a name to it, or you weren't aware of it. People often talk about deep thinkers. They are creative, sensitive, empathetic. This is true, but those same people most often carry inside them an ache that is difficult to describe. This ache sometimes looks like loneliness or restlessness. Sometimes it appears as the feeling of not fully belonging anywhere. But beneath all of these lies something deeper, that fatigue that awareness brings. Think for a moment. You are having coffee with a friend. The conversation flows on the surface. Everyone seems comfortable. But in that same moment, you are thinking, none of these people are saying what they truly feel. Everyone is playing a role. The laughter feels slightly exaggerated. The questions feel mechanical and shallow. Beneath that warmth, there is a quiet distance. Noticing these things slowly isolates you from everyone else. You cannot share what you see. If you say it, you will have ruined that atmosphere. If you don't say it, you remain alone somewhere inside yourself. This is what cognitive isolation really feels like. When people speak of loneliness, they generally mean it in the physical sense, the absence of anyone beside them. But the loneliness deep thinkers feel is different. It's lived in the midst of cowards, felt among those who love you. Right in the center of the noise, it grows silently. The problem is not a lack of people. The problem is that others cannot follow where your mind goes. When you begin to think about something, that thought pulls you inside itself. You move from one question to the another. You go deeper. There, in that depth, you are most often alone. Because people generally prefer to stay on the surface. The surface is safer, more comfortable. But you cannot go back. Once you have seen something, you cannot unsee it. The ache begins right here. Seeing the world's flaws means carrying them in your mind. You read a piece of news and you cannot move past it. You see a person's pain and something inside you cannot help but stir. You notice a wrongdoing and your mind begins to examine it. You wonder how others can be so indifferent. And then you cannot help but ask yourself, are they not seeing it, or am I seeing needlessly too much? Even if both are true, this answer offers little comfort. Because the problem is this: empathy is not a switch you can turn on and off. A person who feels deeply does not choose to feel, they simply feel. They cannot dismiss the hurt on a child's face. They cannot ignore the loneliness in an elderly person's eyes without feeling it. They cannot dismiss the injustice in a story they hear by saying it has nothing to do with them. In the end, all of this accumulates. Silently, without even being aware of it, it accumulates. Sometimes it reaches such a weight that getting up in the morning becomes difficult. Even if one tries to explain it, words feel insufficient. Perhaps you have experienced this too. One day you said, "I'm not okay," and when the person across from you asked why, you didn't know what to say. Because there was no single reason. It was a combination of everything. The weight of the world, the pain of people, the noise of your own thoughts, the exhaustion of searching for meaning, all of it at once. Finding a language to describe this was nearly impossible. And honestly, even if you did describe it, there weren't many people who would understand. That's why many deep thinkers eventually become quiet. Silence seems like a solution. If you speak, you won't be understood. If you don't, at least you carry the feeling of loneliness by yourself. But this silence gradually becomes a habit. That habit deepens, and at some point a person almost forgets how to share their inner world with others. Because you have tried many times, and each time you were either misunderstood, told you think too much, or the subject was changed. All of this brings with it, alongside the silence, the pain of not being seen. You want to be seen, truly seen, not just for who you are, but for what you think, what you feel, the full depth of your mind. The desire is deeply human. Yet for a deep thinker, this desire is one of the hardest to fulfill. Because being truly seen requires the person across from you to be able to descend to the same depth. And that is something that rarely happens. So, is this a curse? No. But it's understandable that you have asked yourself this question. Because deep thinking is also something beautiful. We cannot overlook this. In a piece of music, you hear different layers that another person only hears as melody. In a film, the meaning a director has buried in a scene catches you, and that satisfaction makes the film more meaningful. Someone tells you something and you feel the entire story beneath it. A morning light strikes at a certain angle, and in that light you feel the transience of things. These are small miracles, but people like you can live them by feeling them fully. Yet that some death also makes many pains felt more intensely. It makes every loss feel fully real. Every injustice sparks something inside you. Every farewell, every goodbye, every sense of finality is far more intense for you than what an ordinary person feels. Because you feel fully, you cannot skim over things. Deep thinking makes life both richer and heavier, simultaneously and inseparably. Realizing this changes how you see it. Sometimes a person sees this weight as a problem, as a sign that something is wrong. They question themselves. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I move past it? Why do I think so much? This questioning adds guilt on top of the weight. Yet this weight is not a disorder. It's more like the natural price of a deep mind. Think of it this way. The longer a note is held, the more it vibrates. That long note makes the music feel deeper. Short notes pass quickly. The long, vibrating note is heavy and leaves a mark. You are like that. You leave a mark. Perhaps you are not aware of it. Perhaps you are so immersed in yourself that you cannot see how you appear from the outside. But when people come to you, when they confide in you, when they choose you, there is a reason for that. Because you are truly listening. You are truly feeling. and you are present. Very few people truly do this. Of course, this sometimes exhausts you. Sometimes you feel an urge to rebel inside. Your feeling of loneliness doesn't go away for this very reason. In truth, you are not entirely alone, but in the places your mind travels, in the weight of what you carry, and the questions you ask, you are truly alone. This kind of loneliness cannot be remedied by a crowd. Sometimes a conversation makes it lighter, sometimes with a single sentence, a single glance. When someone says to you, "I noticed that too," or instead of saying, "I understand you," actually shows that they understand. In that moment, the loneliness melts away for an instant. Those moments are very precious to you. Perhaps for ordinary people they are something that simply passes. But for you, that moment of being truly seen is a real source of motivation. This is why deep thinkers value genuine connection, not superficial connection, real connection. Those rare moments when two people truly touch each other. These moments don't come often. But when that moment arrives, all that weight suddenly finds meaning. As if all those thoughts, all that aching, existed precisely to arrive that moment. The depth of the feeling, the ability to truly think, to see the layers of the world, these are in fact virtues. This ability is a gift, but it also comes with weight. Without people like that, the world would feel much flatter. You are a part of that depth. Sometimes you will grow tired. Sometimes you will say to yourself, "I wish I didn't think this much." Sometimes you will simply want to go with the flow, to pass through things without feeling them this deeply. The feeling is completely normal. Wanting to let go for a while, wanting to breathe, wanting simply to exist, these come from being human. But in the end, that depth is a part of you. Even on your hardest days, that depth of feeling remains one of your greatest strengths. The very thing that makes you who you are.